The beauty of the standalone anime film is something I appreciate a bit more every year, as I get slowly overwhelmed by a constant onslaught of television anime. While it's truly impossible to keep up with every show airing in a season, let alone an entire year, you can realistically catch all the best anime films as they release, as long as you live in Japan or the US. Not only that, but you can probably watch most of the greats too. Movies filled with dazzling production, gripping stories, and nice compact runtimes. And much of that high bar of quality is due to incredible auteur filmmakers that dominate the most public arenas of this medium. Names that you almost certainly recognize even if you don't know who directed your favorite two-core show. Miyazaki, Shinkai, Oshii, Kon, Yamada, Ishida, Otomo, Takahata, Yuasa, and Hosoda. All names worthy of praise, and all names that carry certain audience expectations into any film they produce. Unless that audience is me. While I've gotten a lot more invested in seeing anime movies in theaters over the past 5 years, I still haven't really done my non-Ghibli homework. I've still never seen a film from at least a handful of the names I just listed for you. So when I walked into the theater to see Belle, it was without ever watching a second of any of Mamoru Hosoda's previous work. Whether that's right or wrong doesn't really matter at this point, but the context in which I saw this film does. I do believe going into this film entirely blind was a pretty big benefit for me, particularly as someone who spent much of Weathering with You's runtime trying to figure out if I liked it as much as Your Name or not. I was able to approach this movie with fresh eyes, and my biggest takeaway is that I need to go watch Summer Wars as soon as humanly possible. Belle is a film that is visually stunning and a directorial triumph. I obviously can't speak to if it's consistent with Hosoda's style, but given how distinct the direction is, I'd like to imagine it is. By far my highlight was extra long takes that provide weight and realism to conversations and funnier moments. In a medium where scenes are often overwhelmed by constant explanations and stilted dialogue, the film succeeds with the opposite, often stepping back to allow the awkwardness or significance of silence to wash over the audience. I'm not sure I've ever seen any anime hold a shot for as long as Belle does at times, and certainly not also have it feel vital to the scene instead of a cost-cutting technique. I think it's really worth seeing this in theaters if possible, just for how pretty the entire film truly is. It seamlessly weaves in between 2D and 3D without ever feeling out of place or clunky, and instead turns those different styles into an inherent feature of the film, all without losing the pinpoint background detail you'd expect out of a production of this caliber. The colors are vibrant and rightfully pop just a little bit more in the virtual world, while characters look and act just like real teenagers. It's an immersive film down to the smallest animations, but not in the overly detailed way some Shinkai movies are. Every movement or blush or tear just feels right for the moment, and it creates a wonderful experience. Overall story-wise though, it may have bit off a bit more than it had time for. There are some plot threads that kind of never get complete resolution, but it's nothing drastic enough that it deeply hurts the film. It touches on a lot of different themes relevant to today's social media climate, and I think treats most of them with the weight they require, but never really reaches the depth I was expecting. It seems to want to say something about internet celebrities, the power of anonymity, and angry internet mobs, but it never quite gets as deep as I think a film more focused on those topics would have gotten. They're not butchered by any means, but they are weakened by a few unrealistic conclusions. Some stuff gets wrapped up a bit too neatly. But who am I to judge the realism of a movie in which the central plot device is a semi-full dive virtual reality world in which the true self of the user is portrayed as the avatar? There were a lot of animal avatars in this movie, that's all I'm going to say about that, Hosoda. That's all the nitpicking I'm going to do though, because the most important part of this film from the get-go is its music and emotional resonance. As I just mentioned, there are a decent amount of different plot lines in this film, from side character romance to online moderators drunk on power. But Suzu is the star here, as her story is the emotional tether that kept me engaged throughout the entire runtime. This is where I think the elevator pitch that this movie is anime Beauty and the Beast is a bit off-kilter. The movie has those elements, and the central plot is moved because of it, but the film is about Belle first and foremost. Ryuu is important, but never quite gets the characterization in my mind to be a real focal point of the movie. He's as much the male lead as Shinobu is, honestly, and while I don't think that's a bad thing, if you go in expecting anime Beauty and the Beast, you're probably not going to get exactly what you want. And again, I think that's to Belle's benefit, as Suzu's raw emotional connection to music is easily powerful enough to move the needle. The movie is at its best when it's showing the influence music can have on the musician. That music not only elicits emotion in those who listen to it, but that the creation of music is an emotional output in itself. And like any other emotion, that can be drowned and buried by trauma. We often think about how great artists use their pain to create great art, but never the effect that pain has on the person themselves. That to not be creatively stifled by your trauma is a near superhuman effort. And when Belle's music is getting you to consider all that context, is when the movie is truly firing on all cylinders. The music implementation is very cool too. When Belle sings, lyrics spin around her in ever-changing languages, and there is just so much diegetic music in this movie, it's crazy. The best part of the film's opening scene is that it reveals that the music that's been playing throughout is actually being sung in the world by Belle herself. It's such a nice touch. But nowhere is the music more powerful than in the film's climax. In a scene that is equal parts inspiring and heartbreaking, and by far the strongest emotional tug of the entire film. It's what solidified this as a great film for me, as it so perfectly completes Suzu and Belle's arc to a point where if the movie had just ended immediately afterwards, I wouldn't even have been that mad. Kaho Nakamura is absolutely stunning as Belle, and the emotion she's able to draw out from this final song is nothing short of breathtaking. In fact, all the voice work is fantastic and really bringing these characters to life, with Hiroka positively jumping off the screen, and Chikami quickly becoming one of my all-time favorite himbos in all of anime. And I don't say that lightly. My big canoeing boy deserves the world. I don't know if this makes any sense, but Belle is a film that feels like it would blow away a film critic who's not super well versed in anime. It looks like almost nothing recently released in the West, and despite my complaints, it is still a compelling and emotionally moving story. However, if you have more experience under your belt, you'll know the whole package isn't quite the pinnacle of the medium. Or that is to say, do I think it deserves a 14-minute standing ovation? No, that's pretty ridiculous to be honest. But did I really enjoy it and think it deserves plenty of praise? Yes, absolutely. The film is wonderful and heartwarming, and I already have a desire to rewatch it. If you can safely make it to a theater this weekend or sometime next week, you should 100% try to see Belle, and I can only hope that some of its themes connect with you as emotionally as they did with me. And now if you'll excuse me, I think I have some homework to catch up on.